TV5 special presentation.
On the night of September 12, 1979, the worst storm to hit our shores blew into our stretch of the Gulf Coast, Hurricane Frederic. Hi, I'm Bob Stewart. If you were here 10 years ago, you remember the sounds of the roaring wind that long, dark night, the sounds of reassuring voices on your battery-operated radios, and the sound of chainsaws for weeks following. Tonight, we're going to take you back to that terrible night when Frederic came calling. Truly, a night to remember.
Hurricane Frederic, a night to remember.
It all started August 27, 1979. A tropical wave forms off the west coast of Africa, heading west. 3 days later, it is upgraded to a tropical storm, the sixth tropical storm of that year, and is named Frederic. After gaining and then losing some strength, crossing Haiti and Cuba, Frederic moves into the warm Gulf waters. September 11th, 400 miles southeast of Mobile, the hurricane takes a more northerly course, heading for the Alabama-Mississippi Gulf Coast. A hurricane watch goes into effect from Panama City to Morgan City, Louisiana at 6 o'clock that evening. People in Mobile were hoping that Frederic would slide west as Camille had done 10 years before, but it was not to be. By noon Wednesday, September 12th, Frederic, now 160 miles southeast of Fort Morgan, intensifies to a Category 3 hurricane with sustained winds of 130 miles an hour.
Hurry it up, you only got 1 hour.
Alabama Governor Fob James ordered the evacuation of Gulf shores and other low-lying areas. People take him seriously.
People are moving, and that is good, because what we do in the next 6 hours will be the major factor in how much casualties we're going to suffer when the hurricane comes in.
People crowded into stores, shopping for batteries, lamps, canned foods, and anything else to get them through the fury of the storm. Tuesday afternoon, Gulf Coast residents scrambled to board up their houses and businesses. Hundreds of thousands of people left their homes to spend the night somewhere else. Government and private agencies set up their emergency disaster centers. Here at Channel 5, we prepared and sent a team of reporters and photographers to our transmitter in Baldwin County, just in case we lost power to broadcast from our studio in Mobile. By 9 p.m., most people are without power and telephone service. The west end of Dauphin Island is inundated by 15 feet of water, pushed by winds gusting to 155 miles per hour. As the eye hits the coast, it collapses on the east end. The eye passes directly over an area from Grand Bay to Pascagoula. September 13th, the fury of Hurricane Frederic has left a path of destruction 250 miles wide and 150 miles deep. Hurricane-force winds had stretched from Hancock, Mississippi to east of Pensacola. In Pascagoula, there was extensive damage to homes, and at Ingalls Shipyard, 127-mile-an-hour winds caused $10 million in damages. Pecan orchards in South Mobile County were blown away. The city of Bayou Battery, for the most part, was demolished. Luckily, the shrimping fleet was spared. In Mobile and Pritchard, 60% of the trees were either snapped off halfway up or blown over in the northeast direction.
You can't even walk down the streets. The trees are uprooted instead of topped off. It's just lots of trees. They're just, oh, you can't even walk down the streets. One house is penetrated 3 holes in the roof in one house. So there's a lot of damage. Trees all on tops of the houses.
I wish that while they were hauling these off, that they would haul off the few that are still standing. So that if this happens again, we won't have nearly so much damage.
Overall, Pensacola fared better than other coastal areas, but there was heavy damage along the water nonetheless.
The worst damage is to the interior. The rising water inside came up 1.5 feet or 2 feet on our furniture, and the veneer is going and gone, and there's a lot of moisture in the whole house, the drapes. We're going to work all day and get as much done. We've called the insurance company and go back to town, spend the night, and come back and work again tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow.
The Gulf Shore's beachfront was leveled by 25-foot waves, pushing in front of it a 16-foot wall of water. Many residents planned to build back.
What are you trying to do now? Just
to save the furniture and as much as we can of the back part of the house.
At first I thought I had a $250,000 piece of sand, but we've got 4 walls. We'll be back in business.
25 people stayed on Dauphin Island during the hurricane. They all survived. Coming up next, you'll meet one of those survivors who lost everything and lived to tell his story.
What does it feel like to look at all that you have like this?
Very depressing.
You can still find evidence of Frederic's visit to Dauphin Island, but not much. I'm Jerry Huff, on the island for a look back. Now today, this community of 1,300 looks very normal, but on September 13th, 1979, the morning after, no area was left untouched. The entire western 2/3 of the island was overwashed by the storm surge. The eastern third of the island is higher and wider. It was not overwashed by the Gulf, but the wind proved to be an effective destroyer. Before the wind gauge broke at the Dauphin Island Sea Lab, it measured a gust of 137 miles an hour. On the Dauphin Island Bridge, an anemometer recorded a gust of 145 miles an hour. Now, although an evacuation of the island was ordered, evacuations are voluntary, and a few residents decided to stick it out. Ben Berger has been in business on Dauphin Island since 1956. He'd been through all the other storms, so he and a few friends gathered at his store to spend the night of September 12, 1979. With him were Dr. and Mrs. E.D. Quarles, Pete Petronas, Freddie Hoffman, and Ben's 2 Dalmatian dogs, Rascal and R.J.
There was 5 of us here in the store at the time, and we all was together, and then it started getting dark, and we had these emergency lights when the power goes off. I said, well, I'll turn this off because I know the power's going to go off, but I'll have it some light when I need it. So later on in the night, the roof kept peeling off, and we kept moving things around, trying to keep them from getting wet. Then all of a sudden, it was just like an explosion, and the plate glasses all blew in, and the roof blew off, and everybody was scattered all over. And I found myself, I was lying down, and when I went to pick myself up, I found my baby here under me, and I picked him up and I said, well, I'll go to the back of a store where I had just built a storeroom a year before. I ran into Dr. Quarles and Freddie Hoffman. They were standing in the doorway, and I got right in their face and screaming, asked where everybody else was, and Dr. Quarles asked where his wife was, and I said, I don't know, but I'll see if I can go find her. And things were just blowing and sailing around just right and left. Well, the old master up there took care, when I said I wanted to save my light system when I needed it, it had gotten blown on the floor, but something blew into it and tripped the toggle switch, and floodlights came on right when I needed them to go look for Mrs. Quarles. I mean, it's just something that it's just unbelievable that would happen to help me get across all the debris and try to go look for Mrs. Quarles. I went in where the office was, and found Miss Squirrel. She was sitting in one of these chairs, sitting up in a corner, and there was a lampshade over her head. And I guess she had that up for trying to protect her from the flying debris. I said, "Are you all right?" She said, "Yeah, I'm all right." And I said, "Well, have you seen RJ, Rascal, my oldest dog?" Because I had RJ, which is this one. And she said, "He's under your desk." And I said, "Well, you're going to get under that desk with him because the stuff's still blowing around and you liable to get hurt. You get under, I can't fit under that desk." I said, "Yes, you can fit under that desk." She said, "I cannot get under that desk." I said, "Miss Quarles, you're going to get under that desk." And this is the desk right here. And she and this boy's daddy got under this desk and stayed for the duration. And I got over in another little corner and I put 2 chairs over my head to save any debris from blowing on top of me and hit me in the head. I reached around and on the floor and I found a brand new bottle of Tanqueray. I said, "Boy, ain't this nice?" And because I had a little locker in the office and it had never been opened, so I opened it and I kind of worked my way over and I said, "Miss Quarles, you want a little nip of this to keep you from getting too cold?" Because everybody was just wringing wet and blowing 100 miles an hour and it was a little chilly. She said, "No, I don't want any, and then don't you dare drink too much of that stuff." I said, "You don't have to worry about me drinking too much right now." And so it started slacking up a little bit, and after several hours, it seemed like the wind had dropped down just a few degrees, and we started looking, hollering, trying to tell Dr. Quarles that I had found her and she was all right.
Finally, at first daylight, Ben Berger was able to see just what had happened during the night.
I figured that my whole livelihood, I've worked all my life and had everything I had invested in this store, and it was gone. And I'm sure, just like everybody said, that for days afterwards I was in a state of shock, that I just couldn't believe what had happened to my whole livelihood that I had worked so hard for to go in one night like it did. My insurance agent had called me September the 6th and said, "We need to update your insurance, that it's been 5 years since we updated it, and due to the inflation, you really are getting caught short." And I said, "Fine, let's update it." He said, "Well, we got 60 days. This is September the 6th, and it's not due until November the 6th. He said, "I'll be down the next 30 days, and we'll update your insurance." I said, "Great." 6 days later, he didn't have to come. It was gone.
Not everything had blown away, however.
But these little cork balls that weigh a fraction of an ounce never moved.
After 7 months, electricity was restored to Dauphin Island. After 2 years, the bridge was replaced. But after 10 years, the memory lingers on.
It was an experience that you'll never forget.
For months after Hurricane Frederic, telephone and electrical crews worked nonstop for months, bringing us back to civilization. Thousands of volunteer workers and church groups pitched in to help those having a hard time helping themselves. The National Guard stepped in to stop looting and run those guys off selling ice for $5 a bag. And to those people we say thank you. And now 10 years later, there are few physical reminders of Frederick's fury, but those who were here September 12th, 1979, remember that night just like it happened yesterday. I'm Bob Stewart. Thank you for watching.
Well, the roof came off around 10 o'clock, 9 or 10 o'clock, and I was in the back walk-in cooler. And the cooler we had 2 coolers. We had a large one and a small one, and I got in the large one, and it's the one that collapsed. The small one stayed up, but it collapsed in such a way that it gave me room to crawl out from underneath it.
Were you very frightened? Yes, but I was with my husband. I wasn't too frightened because he was with me. There's my husband. Talk to him.
Okay, we were in the bedroom, and the bed kept moving back and forth as the house was shaking right during the storm, back and forth. And we didn't know what we thought it was going to. We thought the house was going to fly away, but it didn't come close. But we scared to death.
We didn't do anything, you know. Sat around in candlelight after the power went out.
Were you frightened?
No.
Were the winds very bad?
Yeah, you can hear Wilson blow the church wind out.
Spent the night in a vault in the office there. As soon as the roof started going in the back end, we figured that would be the safest place.